So today, HyperScape Ubisoft decided to release patch notes that they're going to make for the open beta that they currently have. A lot of the changes that are happening are pretty controversial, and I think we need to dive in and talk about them a little bit. Like I said again, I'll say it over and over again, probably this whole time, is that these patch notes are pretty quite controversial. It seems like Ubisoft is catering to the masses instead of the hardcore players, which it's true, it's the right move if they want to maintain or acquire a larger player base, which they definitely need to do. I mean, it will increase as soon as console is available and crossplay is involved. But I feel like some of these changes, and it sounds like a lot of the community, at least the Reddit and the Discord, are all coming together and kind of, well, I'm not going to say everyone's agreeing about it, but there seems to be a majority opinion that strongly suggests that a lot of what's going on with these patch notes is the wrong direction in order to get your player base. Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. So patch 0.5 will be playing on PC this Friday, July 31st at approximately 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. Eastern, following the Creators Cup. This represents a broad rebalancing pass on the abilities meta of the game. So they are indeed completely changing the meta. The original meta felt like it was a very fast-paced BR with high mobility, high ability usage, as well as gunplay with there. But it feels like the patch that they're leaning towards is higher gunplay with abilities to keep it a little bit interesting. I don't enjoy that method. I prefer that they kept it as it was. We'll get into that. These changes come after much consideration of your feedback since the beginning of open beta. To summarize, there's an update to many items of frustration you have voiced. There are a lot of things in here that people have voiced their frustration about, but there's also a lot of changes that were not necessary. First and foremost, this patch is about time to kill. Indeed, this patch will absolutely change the time to kill. Many of you told us the time to kill felt too slow and that it was too hard to eliminate opponents. We believe the core of the issue was indeed that weapons were not dealing enough damage, but also that the shooting windows of opportunity were rendered too short by the very strong presence of mobility or defensive hacks. Hacks started to have too strong an influence on the TTK overall. This game, though, was super unique in the sense that the hacks allowed you more time and it gave you more windows of opportunity to outplay your opponent. If you were getting ambushed and you started getting lit up from behind, you had time to activate abilities, to disengage, heal up, prepare yourself, and re-engage. Apparently, a lot of the player base didn't enjoy the fact that they could just laser somebody and then they would just die in front of them. I'm not in favor of that. I was much more in favor of repositioning, re-engaging, and outplay. The outplay potential of this game was amazing, and they're looking to sort of dumb things down quite a bit, and it's not a bright future from what I would consider the future of this game. So we have focused our changes on making weapons more powerful while preventing the hacks from being used constantly to escape or eliminate opponents. Agreed, there's been times where you're chasing somebody and all they constantly do is invis and run away and slam and run away, and then they'll invis again as soon as you get close, and then they'll slam and get away, and then it's just this constant cat and mouse scenario where they're running and you're chasing them down, and eventually you either catch them or you just give up, and then they eventually get away, they'll res their teammates, and they'll come back and do it. From one side, from the attacker's point of view, it's very frustrating having to go through all that effort to kill one person. From the defender's point of view, you're getting chased to your wit's end, but you're just narrowly escaping. And if you can continually do that, maybe you can lead that team to another team and they can fight, and then you can go off and you can res. But it also gives a lot of hope to the team that's like down to one man. And it also gives that one person the potential to outplay that possible squad of three that you're getting chased by. A good player versus an average team would be able to get out, escape, res up, and then come back again, fight. And that was one of the beauties about this. The res system makes it so that if you're killed, you are not really out of the game. You need to stick around because there are plenty of opportunities for you to come back and for you to win the game. The second focus is related to several specific abilities that felt unfair to many of you, namely the Protocol V's one-hit kill ability, the Mind Hack's overall power level, and the Invisibility Hack's overly strong ability to escape a gunfight. Let's talk Protocol. The Protocol's one-hit kill ability, it is frustrating dying to one, but it is very satisfying to get those one-hit kills. I made a montage of that. You can go ahead and click that. I made a little meme-tage. Click that if you want to watch it. I'll link to it above and then down below as well. The invisibility hacks overall strong ability to escape a gunfight. True, invisibility is really strong, especially if you're trying to run an aggro team and you need to get in and be able to get out in case a squad of 3 ends up all shooting just you if they actually focus. Invisibility allows for a lot of outplay on a stronger team. It allows you safety. It's basically like a safety net of, if I'm gonna go in hard and something goes wrong, I can get out and I can try it again. We'll get to that one. Mind's hack power, the Mind hack's overall power level. This one definitely needed to change. This one was insane. There was no reason for them to buff it from the original closed technical test. For whatever reason, they decided to buff it to do 75 damage and follow you for 15 seconds. With a cooldown of about like 7 seconds, 4 seconds, something insane, something absurd like that, where they could, if you had to fight somebody indoors, they could literally drop a mine, like run away, just keep dropping mines constantly. And these mines would just chase you for 15 seconds. It would chase you. If you didn't shoot it, or if you didn't run it into a wall, it would just constantly follow you. And you had 3 options. 1 is run away, disengage, and just let it disappear. But that means you have done nothing to the original team that you were attacking. 2, you can stop and shoot it, and at that point, you will probably get shot by the team that dropped the mine. Or 3, you can shoot the person that dropped the mine, and more likely than not, that mine is just going to hit you. Those were the 3 main options you got. I know better players will say, well, you have option 4, you can shoot the player while dodging the mine. Although that is an option, it is really frustrating when you're fighting in closed spaces and you constantly have to play your positioning around something that has no interaction from the enemy player. They literally just dropped it and let it go and let it just do its thing. While they could try and outmaneuver you, they could try repositioning, their shots will be perfectly on target because they don't have to worry about moving at all. We know the change on Protocol V will likely be controversial with some of our skilled sniper players, absolutely, and we will keep a close eye on that discussion going forward, but we believe reducing its constant presence in the game will be to the benefit of all players. True, it is really annoying to get one shot sniped out of nowhere, but there are some other ways that they could have nerfed it that I think would have been a better option than what they did to it. Lastly, this patch is introducing changes to AoE explosive weapons. We aim to make AoE weapons more comfortable and efficient to use while reducing the ability for players to push back and spam with high efficiency. We have effectively removed all pushback effects for those weapons and made sure they could not be abused for indoor combat. So I actually am for this change. One of the big issues with explosive weapons was that a skilled opponent could control the direction that you were getting shot in, and you would pretty much lose all control of your character's position. If you were indoors and you faced a good salvo or you faced a good Komodo, you basically got locked into a corner until you died. Unless you had like a teleport or armor or something to keep you alive in that time, you pretty much got stuck in a corner and died. So many times have I gotten shot indoors trying to jump out of a window, but I would just get stuck on the top of the door frame. This it completely removes all that pushback to allow you to still control your character even when you're getting shot with explosives, which I'm definitely for. One of the worst things that's happened is getting low grav and just getting stuck in the air because a Komodo was getting spammed at you indoors. All right, jumping into weapons. Ripper, increased damage, 13 all ranks to 15 max rank from 11 all ranks, 13 max rank. This one is pretty neutral. The increased damage will make it a little bit more viable. In comparison to the Harpy has insane fast time to kill with pretty similar ranges depending on how you're playing. And I think this one's okay. It ups the damage on the Ripper. However, there are some issues in combination with people using the Ripper, i.e. using controllers and aim assist. We'll dive into that one later. Riot 1, increased damage, 29, 31, up to 39 max. So pretty much they boosted up all the damage ranges, except for max, which is only +1. I know that this gun felt pretty weak if you couldn't infuse it. I think this one closes the gap a little bit, as you can see. So it's a +3 modifier on the low end, but at the high end, it's only a +1 modifier. Having an unfused Riot 1 didn't feel so weak compared to a fully fused one. So this one's okay. The changes, I mean, it wasn't really necessary. The Riot 1 itself is an incredible gun if you can hit your shots. It does insane amount of damage. We'll see how that one plays out. The Mammoth, the shotgun. The damage increase per bullet is up +1 from lower ranks, up to +0 at the max rank. So it stays the same at the max rank, but it's +1 on the lower ranks. The post-shoot animation has been improved to increase the reactivity of the weapon. I'm curious as to what exactly the animation is. Hopefully they fix the issues where the gun wouldn't recock itself and you couldn't shoot it when you pulled it out. Hopefully that's just pretty much the fix. Increased damage per pellet though. So this one's going to be a little bit interesting. Mammoth itself is really strong. It is an insane gun. I don't think it needed this buff. The range on the Mammoth is surprisingly far. I don't think that buffing this was really necessary. I think the Mammoth was in a perfectly fine place. You could essentially two-shot anybody. Especially comboed with an invis. All right. Let's get to the protocol. Decrease damage to 50, 54, 58, 62, 67, down from 50, 58, 65, 73, 8. So a body shot will now max cap at 67 damage, about half your life bar at max rank. And I believe a headshot will only hit you for about 110. I could be wrong there. Essentially, this completely gets rid of being able to one-shot headshot somebody with full HP. The Protocol V, Protocol 5, it was an amazing gun, and it was very, very satisfying to get those one-shot headshot kills, especially if you comboed it with something like a slam or a teleport flying in the air and swiping or flicking to get that headshot. It was very satisfying. On the other side, running on the top of buildings and just getting one-tapped from across the map was not satisfying. I think these changes, I feel like it did need a nerf, especially as a hit scan gun, but I don't think this was the right method. I think what they should have done was they should have introduced damage fall off to the sniper rifle, making it so that close range snipers, those who are putting themselves in higher risk positions, would still be able to hit clutch headshots and still one-shot somebody. However, if you're sitting on top of a sniper tower or on top of, Red Tiger building, shooting at a target 200, 300 meters away, the damage fall off should be so much that it's almost going to be worthless to be shooting from that far. Maybe you'll be able to pick off a team that's fighting each other that's really far away, but it shouldn't have been able to one-shot you from somewhere that nobody could even understand where they got shot from. But introducing fall off damage, let's say anything within 100 meters would have done full damage, would have been reasonable. And then anything past that, you just add a modifier. Say if it's between 100 to 150 meters, it does 85% damage. And then past 150 meters, it does like 65% damage. Anything to incentivize snipers to play riskier and to compromise their positions in order to actually secure one-shot headshots. This would reward aggressive sniper plays. And you all love those montage flicks of teams just hitting those crazy headshots mid-air. Those are the things that we want to see. Those are the things we want to get. If I were to get headshot from a point blank range, I wouldn't be mad. I would be like, okay, he did it. That's good. That guy's good. Let's try to figure out how to play around that. However, I do have an issue when someone shoots me from 300 meters away with barely any visible sight on me and they just instant headshot me. That's where the problems arise. Those are the situations we don't want to see. Ubisoft, I think you could have done better with this one. I think you definitely didn't need this. I think you could have gone the damage drop-off route. You did that with the Komodo. That was evident. I think that's something that definitely should have been implemented. Okay, Hexfire. Damage increase to 4 per round, up to 5 max over 4. Decrease the rate of fire to 900 RPM down from 1000. So this one shouldn't matter too much. You're dropping the rate of fire, but you're increasing the damage. The overall damage per second on this gun, I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be and how effective it is to kill somebody, but the Hexfire definitely is in those close to mid-range situations that you'll want to use it. And I think this still secures its place there with the buffs to the Riot and the Ripper. I think this is going to be okay. It's not really necessary. We'll see what happens here. Skybreaker. Oh, now this one, I don't think they needed to touch the Skybreaker. For some reason, they increased the damage to 67 max fuse over 64. They decreased the physical pushback by 100%, no more pushback, and it now does high environment damage. So basically they buffed it at all ranks and then they removed the pushback. So the pushback wasn't even noticeable. That's fine. It was barely anything. That doesn't matter too much. Skybreaker does high environment damage. I'm assuming that's doing damage to things like walls, damage to things like loot boxes, that sort. like windows, anything that breaks in the environment has a higher chance to break. I think the main factor is probably gonna be the wall. That's fine. Yeah, that's whatever. However, they buffed it overall, which in my opinion, the Skybreaker itself was already an insanely powerful gun. So many teams will run, 1, 2, maybe 3 Skybreakers, and all they need are slams or teleports to get into the air to get that minimum distance away to shoot the Skybreaker to do full damage. And you only need 2 of them to kill someone. So I'm not exactly sure why they needed to buff it, but they did. I think this is also in the wrong direction. It's already an insanely strong gun. They didn't need to make it any stronger. If you want to talk about low skill guns, I think the Skybreaker is definitely one of those top ones. The salvo, decreased damage from 27 to 20, from 34 to 24. That's a big nerf. Increase the explosion effect, the explosion area of effect to 4R up from 3R. So they increase the explosion AoE, but they decrease the damage, and there's no more pushback. Yeah, one of the most frustrating things, like I said before, is getting that physical pushback. Explosion area, I'm not exactly sure. I used to use the salvo when it was really strong in its prime day, but now I don't necessarily. The decrease in damage will allow you, so it's a more forgiving explosion, but you have to consistently hit your shots for it net you a kill rather than spamming random nades and then hoping that one of them does damage. I think this one's fine. This one's okay. We'll move on. The Komodo increased damage to 29 from 25 at low rank, up to 34 from 30 at max rank, and increase the explosion AoE to 2.5R up from 1.5R. Remove the pushback, and it now deals progressively less damage under 15 meters. Interesting. So now this proves that they can do damage drop off. So they made it stronger. I'm curious, does it still have a minimum distance for it to do damage? Or does this reward close range shots? I guess we'll have to see about that one. I'm not exactly sure. However, I think the Komodo, I don't think it needed a damage buff or an AoE buff. I think this was the wrong route. We're gonna see Komodos. I think the Komodo was in a really good spot before, and this is gonna make this come back to life, and it's not gonna be fun. Hats, mine. Now the mine is something that definitely needed to be changed. The mine was one of the most annoying, one of the most brain dead hacks you could use. Honestly, I'm very glad that this is changing. So they increased the cooldown to 16 seconds, 11 at max rank, up from 12 seconds, 7 seconds max rank. So now there's an added 4 seconds between uses at max rank, which I think is really good. Increase the cooldown on it. Decrease the damage from 75 max to 45. That's big. Before, it did more than half your HP off of one mine. So many kills you could just net by just dropping random mines during team fights. Now it does way less. Also, it only chases for 8 seconds, down from 15. This one is really good. 15 seconds is a long time in this game. And getting chased by a damage ability that would do more than half your HP was insane. I'm really glad they tuned this. Decreased projectile HP to 60, down from 75. Okay, so they're easier to kill. Increased detection radius to 12R, down from 15R. You have more of a chance to run past a mine without triggering it following you. Decreased deploy duration to 30 seconds, down from 60 seconds. 60 seconds also was a really long time for them to just those mines to sit there for. Kind of insane how long it was. Down to 30 seconds, meaning it'll disappear after 30 seconds, that's a good nerf. Increased trigger timer to 1 second, up from 0.5 seconds. I think this meant that if you were within the detection radius for 0.5 seconds, it would lock onto you and it would start chasing you. But now this gives you time to kind of run past it and allow it to not chase you. Also, people indoors would drop them directly on an enemy and it would immediately 0.5 seconds. That's pretty fast. It would almost immediately start tracking you and then it would hit you for more than half your HP. Now it takes a second for it to arm and for it to chase you, which is good, meaning people will rely less on it in fights. Okay, wall. I'm not sure why they needed to change the wall. I understand there's sometimes people would play with the wall and try to just stay out of fights by sitting in midair. And that was annoying. But I'm kind of neutral to these changes. Decreased duration to 9 seconds, down from 25. So they drastically decreased the duration a wall will stand up. Decreased total deployed wall limit to 2, down from 5. I mean, that's good. That's pretty much this isn't Fortnite. We're not supposed to be building towers out of these things. Only gives you 2 and they only last for 9 seconds. I mean, that's pretty much what they should have been used for. It's just kind of a temporary escape, not something that you should be sitting behind for a length of time. Okay, ball. let's talk ball. Ball, why they needed to change, they decided to nerf the ball this is where I really started to lose the confidence in them reading feedback from the community. Ball, if anything, needed a buff. Ball is useless, even max rank. Increase cooldowns by 2 seconds at max rank, and they decrease the duration. The ball took barely any damage to break, and if you've ever tried to use a ball in a fight to get out, you were pretty much screwed. They could one clip your ball and then shoot you falling out of the air. There was nothing you could do. Ball was so worthless. I don't know why they decided to nerf it. It needed to be buffed. They really went the wrong direction with this. Moving on. Armor. Increased cooldown to 11 seconds max rank, up from 9 seconds. So the previous patch nerfed the duration of armor. And now they're increasing the cooldown. I don't think this was the right change. I think they could have gone a different way with this. I think that maybe not making you invincible, maybe giving you a breakable armor would have been better. We don't want to see this game where everyone's fighting and they're all just waiting for their cooldowns to be done. You want constant abilities, you want constant mobility, you want all this stuff. You want these for being able to counterplay, to be able to outplay your opponent. That's what these were meant for. And making it so that you're just running out in the open with no abilities available to you is bland and it's boring. And you've pretty much just become a random other BR. Let's see. Slam. Increase cooldown by 2 seconds. And they decrease the damage. This, again, it's them trying to reduce the mobility, the escapability of people. But here's the thing. Like, if you had a slam chasing someone else with a slam, what would more happen than not is that they would slam and then you would slam to chase them. And by the time they slammed again, you would slam again. It didn't really matter the durations or the cooldowns for them, as long as you could time it where like you could catch up or you could get away, whichever position you were in. And they kind of just would follow each other and chase each other. They didn't need to make it so that half of that fight is on foot. But now it seems like they're moving in a route where they're getting rid of fun mobility. They're reducing the amount that you'll be able to use a hack in a game. It's making the game more bland and it's making it more dumb. You have less opportunities for outplaying because more likely than not, you're just going to get caught out in the open with nothing available to you, no escapes, no defenses. It's tough. And then they decrease the damage. I understand that people were not enjoying the fact that you could do this burst damage indoors. What they could have done is, a lot of people suggested that have slam do damage based on the distance that you fell from. So if you were indoors and you hit the ceiling, you hit the ground, you would do low damage. But if you got a full slam all the way up in the air and then landed on somebody, you would do max damage. I think that would have been a better implementation rather than this just static damage decrease. Invisibility. Invisibility. As we talked before, invisibility is one of those very, very useful tools to get in, to get out, and it really allows for counterplay. However, there was the usual complaining voice that invisibility is hard to fight. Invisibility was not hard to fight. Invisibility was perfectly fine where it was. Maybe they could have increased the audio cue a little louder because some people weren't used to listening for it. Maybe increase the distance that you could hear it from. People didn't realize that you can track invisibility just by listening. And some people are complaining that even then it's really hard to listen for. I will agree that sometimes in a full-on fight, with multiple people invising, it is kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly where that player's going, but it wasn't anything insane. So they increased the cooldown duration and they decreased the duration of it. So I'm really sad to see this. I was hoping they weren't going to touch invisibility, but it looks like they are. And people are complaining that, oh, there's no way to counter invisibility, essentially makes them invulnerable. Well, here's the thing. You can hear where they're going. You can pretty much guess the path that most people will take. If you were a good player with invisibility, you could juke your opponents 9 times out of 10 because you would essentially make a maneuver that they wouldn't expect you to make. But if you were an average player or a below average player, you would get caught because all you did was run in a straight line from where you invised, and it was pretty predictable. It was really easy to hear you. And some people are complaining that reveal doesn't really do much. Reveal, people don't realize they're really sleeping on the capabilities of reveal. Reveal, especially with the popularity of invisibility, was a direct counter. I would run invisibility and reveal to make sure that I could always secure the kill on my opponent, because in the event that they were just using invisibility over and over again, that was the counterplay, was to pick up a reveal. I would drop a max level slam if I found a level 1 reveal, if I had opponents that were just invisibility spamming. But the second I did that, they were dead. They would rely on that on the invisibility, and you would reveal them. They'd pop out, you just kill them. End of story. And then you could swap back to whatever it was you were using before then. I don't think this was the right maneuver. This also this reduces the amount of counterplay. This reduces the complexity of the game. The skill ceiling just gets lowered by it. You really hate to see it. Heal. Increase the cooldown by 4 seconds at max rank. And then they decrease the duration by 6 seconds. Heal is in a weird spot for me. These changes, I think, are okay. If you ever had to team fight against another team and they were sitting on a heal, all you had to do was shoot the heal beacon. It took like 20 damage and then it was done, and they stopped getting heals. And that was better than firing full mags into them. I think they could have done this a little better. I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think this was quite the maneuver. Again, this decreases the amount of fun, the amount of ability usage in this game, it felt like it's such a core piece of this game, was to use abilities alongside, like you could customize which abilities you want to use. You can choose how you want to play, but now that all these cooldowns are getting dulled, everything's being increased, it's just going to start feeling like a shooter again. Shockwave, decrease damage down, so it's going to do less damage, and then they increase the cooldown. I don't think this was the right maneuver. I think, how many times have you shockwaved in an attempt to go in the air and it literally sent you nowhere? Now think about having to wait an additional 4 seconds to try again. It's a frustrating ability. I think they should have focused on fixing it first rather than nerfing it. I don't think that was the play. One of the reasons I used to use it compared to like a teleporter or slam was because it was inefficient, because it wouldn't work a lot of the time, but the fact that I could use it almost twice as much would sometimes give you the benefit. It was a weird trade-off. Love-hate relationship. Teleport, increase cooldown by 2 seconds max rank. Essentially, they're nerfing the teleport, they're reducing mobility, they're making it so that it's just a dumbed down version of you have to sit in a building, wait and cover until you have your abilities, then you can re-engage when you have the advantage and your enemy is running around when the ability is available. Showdown, decrease sector decay damage, showdown multiplier to 3, down from a 7. I think this one was kind of needed. A lot of times, if you were fighting in Showdown and you were weak, if you accidentally slid out of zone for a split second, the sector could tick and you would die. And that was kind of frustrating. Hopefully this one is going to prevent that a little bit more. It did need to be high, but a lot of times teams would, like close to Showdown, would just die out in zone because that damage ticks so hard. So I think this one's a good one. I think this one's a good change. And general client service stability improvements. Hopefully they did stuff with that. So that's it for me, everybody. Those are the patch notes. That's my analysis of it. Ubisoft, please, if you want this game to survive, please don't nerf everything to the ground. We want fast-paced action. That's what makes this game fun. If you want to follow me, we do stream on Twitch. Please follow there. Hit me with a follow. Subscribe if you like the content. Hit the notification if you want to see when I come up with videos. I'm hoping to increase the content from this channel a lot more drastically than I have previously. Catch y'all later and see you in the Hyperscape.